And we're live.
Taylor, by the way, man, I see you. Your stream's been killing it. Congratulations. You are you full time on that yet?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Woody. No,
Woody's been doing well too, but I'm not new for you.
I'm not full time on it yet, just because I do it as much as I can. Like I've found that like usually I can sneak 3 to 4 hours, as like a sweet spot amount of time, a decent amount of days throughout the week, and I have a lot of fun doing it. But yeah, my chat's fucking outrageous. I had one dude donate 150 subs last night, and another dude donate 100, and it was like that's out fucking rageous. And like 300 some subs on a night where I just watched like 4 hours of Hoarders and made fun of those monsters. Yeah, it was a fun time. We had a good time. Yeah.
Every so often,
it was too depressing watching Hoarders. I'm like, I don't want to watch this shit.
I know it is depressing, but you just have to stay mad.
I think they were like cats that were like this thick off the floor, like they're like a quarter of an inch thick, and they just been like plastered to the floor, and it was dead there for who knows how long in the house.
Yeah, there was the one cat where they're like, well, it was under 1.5 to 2 feet of feces, and there was one where they're walking through it, and it's almost like an illusion thing where like you look at a painting and you're like, wow, it looks like it's coming right at me, and then they go to the ground level and it is flat as a pancake, and so it's just a cute little kitty looking thing, and I'm like, oh, I hope that one's okay. And the guy reaches down and picks it up by what the tail is, and it lifts like a communion wafer, just fully straight, flat as a board. And in the middle of it, you could see a depression where a shoe had walked over this thing multiple times. So this disgusting bitch walked through the path with this dead cat there and was stepping on it and never even bothered to pick it up, which I guess, why pick up that dead cat? There's a dozen more. And that's not a lie. At the end, it showed this crazy bitch. It was like 36 cats were found.
The premise of the show is always about helping these people, fixing them, like they're going to cure them. It's like 0% cured. They can clean maybe a room if they're bad ones, and the house if they're not bad, and then they go right back to their old behavior.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like the 2 minutes I watched this makes me an entire expert on this, Woody. So I'm an expert on this too, just to chime in. It did seem like they were just fucking shaming the shit out of these people. And it was clear like these people had problems and they needed help for sure. But it didn't really feel like they were put in a situation where they're going to get to the root of the problem, right? It just felt like this was like window dressing and shitting on them.
I think if you watch more of it, you'd see they have psychologists on, and they're kind of helping them throw this stuff away and identifying what's trash, what's not, and helping them learn that like broth in a box that's swollen and gone bad and 6 years past its expiration doesn't have value. Whereas they're like, oh, that's a rainy day item. You don't know. You might have
some good stuff in there.
Yeah.
There was a bag of shit being carried away, and one of the ladies goes, my rubber bands! My rubber bands! She wanted to search through a bag of feces to find her rubber bands.
They think everything has value.
You should just be
put in jail. What I always want them to do, like when they see that swollen box of broth, and they're like, no, not my broth. I want them to be like, here, have some.
That happened.
This is your rainy day broth. Have some. I want to see them like, well, I guess they like crack it open.
Roach eggs in it.
Oftentimes, the building they're in is ruined. The building is ruined by the things they kept inside of it. They're just like, this whole building is just better off being torn down and start over.
That's my favorite. When they tore the lady's house down and she's outside crying. That's such a good show.
We watched that one last night. The one where this lady was just, you would agree if you saw this lady. She was a monster. She was horrible to everybody trying to help her and would not help to get anything done, just being mean the whole time. And it, like, towards the end of it, she's like, well, I think it got a little cleaner. It's just a bit of a work in progress. And then the Chiron on the top of the stream goes, Robin was not able to clean the house. The house has been demolished and she's been charged $10,000 by the state. And I was like,
good.
Nice. She was ruining the property value everywhere. That was a different woman. Like, usually, I think what you're talking about, Filthy, of them coming in too hot is usually the family. There's at least one person in the family who's sick and fucking tired of it. But on the other side of that coin, the psychologists are not helpful at all because they go into it way too mamby-pamby, where it almost seems like they're sabotaging it for the sake of the show, where there will be people carrying boxes of literal poop and trash and dead cats out of the house. And the psychologist, as all these guys are busting their ass sweating in a really dangerous environment, will be like, well, hold on, put that box down. Now, Robin, are you okay with us getting rid of these spoons? No, those are good spoons. Okay, how about this cat head? That's one of my favorite cats. And then all these ones are popping in my head. It's such a fucking funny show. There was the daughter of a hoarder was like, I left the house at 23, and you know what really scared me about the house was the squirrel incident when I was young. I went in and wanted to make some buttered toast, opened up the butter tray, and there was a calcified squirrel staring right back at me, and really got to me that day. No kid wants to see a dead squirrel in the butter tray. And she's like talking how bad that was.
Matter-of-factly talking about calcified squirrels in the butter tray.
Yeah. But then every once in a while, you get like a high-T alpha family member. This one bitch had like 2 sons, and they were not playing the psychologist game of like checking with everything. He just went up to one of the side areas and just ripped out the screen door and was like, we can get it all out this way. Everything out. Everything out. Mom, it's trash. It's fucking trash, Ma. He's just carrying it out and throwing it away. My collectible plates. She literally said that. Just cat shit covered plates. My collectible plates.
Yeah, but that's the point of that, right? Like, it's like, there's no way this isn't a choice. You're not going to be rational with someone about this because it's not a rational thing they're doing. Yeah. Right. Like that line and maybe this is, who knows what they edited out of this, and we're editing this for TV to make it more interesting. But like, who knows what the actual process is in terms of length of time there and what they're actually doing with these people. But it just feels like this is like the tip of a fucking iceberg. Yeah. Cleaning the house will help, but this is a huge underlying issue.
Absolutely.
And it's just like the stuff that's happening there.
Have any of us ever had like a relative or a friend who was at least borderline with the hoarding?
Yes.
I've never actually walked into a hoarder's house, I don't think. Or no, I have once, but it was like a really organized, like knick-knack kind of hoarder house where they were like, it was stressful to walk around it, but nothing like this show. There weren't.
What'd you have, Woody?
I felt like Jackie's parents kept too many things. Like
I was about to bail you out. I was like, maybe you don't want to talk.
Yeah, maybe should have gone that way. But they
unnamed woman's family.
Paperback books stacked to the ceiling. Just like old things. Like it wasn't dirty. Like it certainly wasn't like it
was clean refuse.
It can be disorganized, and there was nothing that was like yucky, right? Like you wouldn't want to not eat in the same room as a bunch of paperback books. But it was also like, well, these things are just not good, right? Like, why are we keeping
want one on the bottom? Come on.
They didn't have a really big house. When I first met her, anyway. And he's like, you could use this space for things other than storing worthless things.
Yeah. There was, Kyle, you were talking about wanting them to have to eat the broth. There was one of these crazy ladies last night and there's the one guy who's like, my name's Colin Stevenson, and I'm an extreme cleaner. Like he's king flipping into the house. And he goes in and he's like Mr. Pro. Nothing shakes this guy. And he grabs the dirtiest mason jar I've ever seen. It looked like they shit smeared on the middle out of this fridge. And there's like a little black nugget of something abnormally shaped about this large, just a black nugget. And she's like, that's still good. That's a candy. And he's like, it's not a candy. It's not a candy, ma'am. This is in no world a candy. And he's like, it's a candy. She reaches her old hand in, pulls out this gnarled little thing and pops it in her mouth. And she goes, it's a candy. And this extreme cleaner's like, ugh. And he's like talking to the camera, being like, that may be the grossest thing I've ever seen. Last week I cleaned up 10 years of human feces in a bag on a staircase, and this is the worst thing I've ever seen. And it was like, from that moment on, you could see him like keeping a distance from her. Like she's an absolute fucking kook.
I've talked about it before.
And it was not a candy. It was I will tell you this for sure. That was not candy.
I know. So in Ocean City, 2 houses down, it was a hoarder's house. And the house was so filled with shit, it split open on the side. You could see from the outside, like lamps and dressers and shit came like piling out. Like the corner of the house opened up, and furniture and I don't know, trash bags full of clothing and hangers and stuff popped out.
I think what might help Filthy a little bit for this is like, yeah, it's definitely a whole process to fix the hoarding, but they don't do it like that. They wait until it's like Robin, her house, she's facing 6 months in jail in the next couple months unless she gets this clean. And so they set it up with like the ticking clock. And so then they do the bullshit where it's like, well, let's do the therapy part. And it's like, no. That part was years ago. This part is force them to clean the house against their will, or they will go to jail and have their house burned down. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's all for TV. If they actually wanted to help, they'd be doing therapy way before it was like, crunch time, you got 4 days before the inspectors come in and there's rats running around. One piece of shit dude had hundreds of rabbits in his house running around that just shit on the floor. He was saying that like he was good for the rabbits, but they were walking around like rabbits shouldn't be bald. And some of them were. This one cunt, she didn't clean out the chicken cages enough, and this chicken had filled its own cage with 1.5 feet of shit to the point that it's like crouched down below the top. It's not even the top of a cage. It's an old cooking grate with like a pot with some foul concoction in it. It's just terrible. It stresses me out to watch a little bit.
God, I'm watching tonight now. You've sold me. This sounds hilarious.
Well, I'll be doing more on my stream, everyone. TaylorMurka on Twitch. Go follow me. More Hoarders.
Oh my fucking God. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
It's so funny.
I could picture her so vividly sticking her old gnarled hand down into that mason jar and pulling out that Beezor or whatever the fuck and just...
It's awful. It's a genuinely really gross. The amount of dead animals they find is mind-boggling. Like,
how many dead animals do you have in your house?
But there's something clearly sick with people doing that, right? Like, it's if you're able to readjust your expectation of reality to be like, this is normal, this is fine, like this is just part of my house to have
sort of compulsive behavior.
A foot of fucking chicken shit in my.
A lot of them are broke
like
or spent time broke, and I think that's part of where the hoarding comes from. Suddenly, like if you've lived through a time where you had nothing or you couldn't acquire anything, you don't want to let anything go. It seems like that's the genesis of it commonly.
Some of them are, yeah, definitely.
Do you feel like we have to respect their mental illness though? Because like what I see them often do is mollycoddle them and be like, oh, well, let's just pull the turds out of the box of old rotten books. And that way we can keep the old rotten books with turds on them, but we'll just get the turds out. And they're like, that makes good fertilizer. Well, the grass all died a long time ago because of all the cars leaking oil. So you don't need that fertilizer. They're like, stop bargaining. Rip it all out and burn it in the yard. I wish burning was legal because
Burning's
there's something
illegal?
so
For most people.
Yes, Woody. I never like to bring that up on the show, but yeah, that's a crime that you commit every week.
Taylor would have a lot more shit if I knew that.
I think I would too.
Damn it! That goddamn Witch King helmet sitting out there charred
That's
to
never
a crisp.
true. They turned it into a helmet. It was anyway.
Yeah, I guess it's just the part of me that like responds to that. It just feels like these people are ill, right? Like you're not going to rationally tell someone like if you're hearing voices or seeing or hallucinating or something. There's no amount of rationality that comes along with that, right? And I mean, and maybe even that isn't true. Like I was watching some Rogan episode and they're talking to some like marathon runner who she was like, yeah, when she does her 100-mile marathon through the friggin' desert as like without stopping for sleep, she hallucinates and talks to the scenery as she runs. And she rationally was like, I train for this, I deal with this, I just roll, I kind of ride that when it happens. But I don't think so I don't know. I don't know what the appropriate way is. Presumably the experts on the show do know what the appropriate way is to deal with it, but it makes sense to me that you're not like, you have to get rid of this, it's insane, because clearly there's some disconnect between reality and that.
I think the mollycoddling is their attempt to teach them good from bad in the whole hoarding world. They're like, this is what garbage is. Hey, you can distinguish what's garbage and what isn't garbage, and that's what they're doing. They're selecting it. Now, of course, they suck, and they define everything as not garbage, and then they have to go through it again and again. So usually they're like model coddling off the side while someone else is attempting to actually clean this mess.
Yep, it's exactly what it is. They're not like, they don't come off as very highly respected people in their fields of psychiatry or psychology. They come off as like Dr. Phil-ish, where they're making their questions in a pointed way to try and create drama. And they feel like they're actively I feel like they're actively inhibiting the help of the people by slowing it down that much. Like, really, the only cure for most of these houses you see is just fire. Like, a lot of it is
really hot.
It's absolutely irritating. There were these landlords came into the rabbit house and they were absolutely shell shocked. They're like, we haven't been here in 2 years, and just they removed like probably 50 rabbits from the house, and they're like, starting to look good. And then a bunch of like little kid bunnies jump out of the wall.
Oh no!
There's even more in there, and none of them want to be picked up, and so they're all just like, scratching me. It just looks like the worst fucking job to be an extreme cleaner. Yeah, and as you're like lugging out a box full of rat skeletons, some lady stops you and goes, "Hey, hold that heavy box of rat skeletons. We need to find AJ, her favorite rat." Well, he's got a little party hat on his skeleton. It's like, dude, you should be in jail. You shouldn't. Dude, imagine that not enough people have empathy for the neighbors in these situations. One of the episodes was called "They Can Smell the House from the Road." And that's not okay for everybody else who lives there. Like, what if any of them want to sell their house? What if any of them want to live their life and move somewhere and uproot because they get a new job somewhere else?
I could see myself burning that house down. Like honestly.
And then eating the rabbits.
Just waiting till like you saw the old couple go to the grocery store and just
maybe not even that.
Just wait until they turn the lights off late at night, give them an hour to get drowsy, and then lighten her up. Just lighten her up.
No, it's a real good show. You need to put some more hours into watching that. It's very, very funny.
What I like is when they're mean to the hoarders, though. I don't like any mollycoddling. I want like a boot camp where they go in and they're just like I literally want like a Marine drill sergeant to walk in there and like react the same way they do when like there's a fucking sock on the floor in a barracks. But now they see this mess and they just you just see them melting down and turning all red face, and they have a gun for sure, and they're using the gun to shoot the rodents and stuff. Occasionally they just pull it out with no warning, and
I've said it before, Kyle. You're an idea man. I love this. To just get those guys like, normally he teaches at Buds, but now he's dealing with hoarders. They just go insane, yelling at him like 1 inch away.
They have to crawl under the...
He doesn't know that this woman has mental health issues. He is just, he's been told he has to clear this house in 12 hours or else.
They have to belly crawl underneath all the barbed wire, but instead of being under fire, they're having to resist picking up broken tea kettles and like farmers' almanacs from 1964. And put that broken pot down, you do not need it. No, but it's still good. I can cook something in there. And then they just bang. One strike and you're out.
Trying to get some overweight 63-year-old to do push-ups.
Dude, there was one, I think I watched like 4 hours of it. There are no skinny hoarders. Though there was one guy that was normal weight. One normal weight guy who looked pretty normal, but he also was wearing just a weird hat, and he liked to keep all of his trash in the yard. But other than him, these people are morbidly obese. Morbidly. Disgusting.
They don't throw anything away. That's got to be part of it.
They're not well dressed.
No,
they're never well dressed. You would think they'd have quite the wardrobe stored away somewhere.
Good thought. Yes, you'd think they'd break out their good clothes.
Have you ever seen an adult that like they look like they're dressed like a toddler?
No, never.
Like, Taylor. He's got like colored shorts
on. Are they dressed like 12-year-olds by chance? No, that's some bullshit right there.
Dude, every hoarder looks like the kind of person that pulls their pants all the way down to pee. just Ben Shapiro style, just straight down.